Yeshiva is a Jewish institution that focuses on the study of traditional religious texts, primarily the Talmud and Torah study. Study is usually done through daily shiurim and in study pairs called chavrutas. Chavruta-style learning is one of the unique features of the yeshiva. In the United States and Israel, the different levels of yeshiva education have different names. In the United States, elementary school students are enrolled in a yeshiva, post-bar mitzvah age students learn in a metivta, and undergraduate-level students learn in a beit midrash or yeshiva gedolah. In Israel, elementary school students are enrolled in a Talmud Torah or cheder, post-bar mitzvah age students learn in a yeshiva ketana, and high school-age students learn in a yeshiva gedolah. A kollel is a yeshiva for married men. It is common for a kollel to pay a token stipend to its students. Students of Lithuanian and Hasidic yeshiva gedolahs usually learn in yeshiva until they get married. Historically, yeshivas were attended by males only. Today, all non-Orthodox and a few modern Orthodox yeshivas are open even to females. Although there is no lack of schools for Orthodox women and girls, yeshivas for women do not follow the same structure or curriculum as the traditional yeshiva for boys and men. Etymology. Alternate spellings and names include yeshiva, metivta and mesivta, Beth Midrash, Talmudical Academy, Rabbinical Academy, and Rabbinical School. The word yeshiva, lit. Sitting, is applied to the activity of learning in class, and hence to a learning session. The transference in meaning of the term from the learning session to the institution itself appears to have occurred by the time of the great Talmudist academies in Babylonia, Sura and Pumbedita, which were known as Shteh ha-Yeshivot, the two colleges. History. Origins. The Mishnah tractate Megillah mentions the law that a town can only be called a city if it supports 10 men to make up the required quorum for communal prayers. Likewise, every Beth Din was attended by a number of pupils up to 3 times the size of the court. These might be indications of the historicity of the classical yeshiva. As indicated by the Talmud, adults generally took off 2 months a year, Elul and Adar, the months preceding the pilgrimage festivals of Sukkot and Pesach, called Yat Kala, to study. The rest of the year they worked. Geonic period. The Geonic period takes its name from Gaon, the title bestowed on the heads of the 3 yeshivas in existence from the 3rd to the 13th century. The Geonim acted as the principals of their individual yeshivot, and as spiritual leaders and high judges for the wider communities tied to them. The yeshiva conducted all official business in the name of its Gaon, and all correspondence to or from the yeshiva was addressed directly to the Gaon. Throughout the Geonic period there were 3 yeshivot. These were named for the cities in which they were located: Jerusalem, Sura, and Pumbedita. The yeshiva of Jerusalem would later relocate to Cairo, and the yeshivat of Sura and Pumbedita to Baghdad, but retain their original names. Each Jewish community would associate itself with one of the 3 yeshivot. Jews living around the Mediterranean typically followed the yeshiva in Jerusalem, while those living in the Arabian Peninsula and modern-day Iraq and Iran typically followed one of the 2 yeshivot in Baghdad. There was, however, no requirement for this, and each community could choose to associate with any of the yeshivot. The yeshiva served as the highest educational institution for the rabbis of this period. In addition to this, the yeshiva wielded immense power as the principal body for interpreting Jewish law. In this regard, the community saw the Gaon of a yeshiva as the highest judge on all matters of Jewish law. Each yeshiva ruled differently on matters of ritual and law. The other yeshivot accepted these divisions, and all 3 ranked as equally orthodox. The yeshiva also served as an administrative authority, in conjunction with local communities, by appointing members to serve as the head of local congregations. Those appointed as the head of a congregation would serve as a go-between for the local congregation and the larger yeshiva it was attached to. These local leaders would also submit questions to the yeshiva to obtain final rulings on issues of dogma, ritual, or law. Each congregation was expected to follow only one yeshiva to prevent conflict with different rulings issued by different yeshivot. The yeshivot were financially supported through a number of means. There were fixed, but voluntary, yearly contributions made to the yeshivas. These annual contributions were collected and handled by the local leaders appointed by the yeshiva. Private gifts and donations from individuals were also common, especially during holidays, and could consist of money or goods. The Yeshiva of Jerusalem was finally forced into exile in Cairo in 1127, and eventually dispersed entirely. Likewise, the Yeshivot of Sura and Pumbedita were dispersed following the Mongol invasions of the 13th century. After the scattering of the yeshiva, education in Jewish religious studies became the responsibility of individual synagogues. No organization ever came to replace the three great yeshivot of Jerusalem, Sura and Pumbedita. Post-Geonic period to 19th century. After the Geonic period, Jews went on to establishing more yeshiva academies in Europe and in northern Africa. One of these include the Kairouan Yeshiva in Spain that was established by Chashiel ben Elchanan in 974, less than 4,000, greater than traditionally. Every town rabbi had the right to maintain a number of full-time or part-time pupils in the town's Beth Midrash. Their cost of living was covered by community taxation. After a number of years, these young people would either take up a vacant rabbinical position elsewhere or join the workforce. Lithuanian yeshivas organized Torah study was revolutionized by Rabbi Chaim Volozhin, a disciple of the Vilna Gaon. In his view, the traditional arrangement did not cater for those who were looking for more intensive study. With the support of his teacher, Rabbi Volozhin gathered a large number of interested students and started a yeshiva in the town of Volozhin. Although the Volozhin yeshiva was closed some 60 years later due to the Russian government's demands for the introduction of certain secular studies, a number of yeshivot opened in other towns and cities, most notably Slobodka, Panavais, Mir, Brisk, and Tels. Many prominent contemporary yeshivot in the United States and Israel are continuations of these institutions and often bear the same name. In the 19th century, Rabbi Israel Salanter initiated the Musar movement in non-Hasidic Lithuanian Jewry, which sought to encourage yeshiva students and the wider community to spend regular times devoted to the study of Jewish ethical works. Concerned by the new social and religious changes of the Haskalah, and emerging political ideologies such as Zionism, that often opposed traditional Judaism, the masters of Musar saw a need to augment Talmudist study with more personal works. These comprised earlier classic Jewish ethical texts, as well as a new literature for the movement. By focusing the student on self-understanding and introspection, often with profound psychological insight, the spiritual aims of Judaism could be internalized. After early opposition, the Lithuanian yeshiva world saw the need for this new component in the curriculum, and set aside times for individual Musar study and Musar talks. A spiritual mentor encouraged the personal development of each student. To some degree also, this Lithuanian movement arose in response, and as an alternative, to the separate mystical study of the Hasidic Judaism world. Hasidism began previously, in the 18th century, within traditional Jewish life in the Ukraine, and spread to Hungary, Poland and Russia. As the 19th century brought upheavals and threats to traditional Judaism, the Musar teachers saw the benefit of the new spiritual focus in Hasidism, and developed their alternative ethical approach to spirituality. Some variety developed within Lithuanian yeshivas to methods of studying Talmud and Musar, for example the contrast between breadth and depth. or the place given to pilpul. The new analytical approach of the Brisker method, developed by Rabbi Chaim Soloveitchik at Brisk, has become widely popular, though there are other approaches such as those of Meir Chofetzheim and Telz. In Musar different schools developed, such as Slabodka and Novhardok, though today a decline in devoted spiritual self-development from its earlier intensity has to some extent leveled out the differences. Hasidic yeshivas. With the success of the Yeshiva institution in Lithuanian Jewry, the Hasidic world developed their own yeshivas in their areas of Eastern Europe. These comprise the traditional Jewish focus on Talmudist literature that is central to Rabbinic Judaism, augmented by study of Hasidic philosophy. Examples of these Hasidic yeshivas are the Chabad Lubavitch Yeshiva system of Tomchai Temimim, founded by Sholem Dov Bashniason in Russia in 1897, and the Chachmai Lublin Yeshiva established in Poland in 1930 by Meir Shapiro, who is renowned in both Hasidic and Lithuanian Jewish circles for initiating the Daf Yomi daily cycle of Talmud study. In many Hasidic yeshivas, study of Hasidic texts is a secondary activity, similar to the additional Musar curriculum in Lithuanian yeshivas. These paths see Hasidism as a means to the end of inspiring emotional devekut and mystical enthusiasm. In this context, the personal pilgrimage of a Hasid to his Rebbe is a central feature of spiritual life, in order to awaken spiritual fervor. Often, such paths will reserve a Shabbat in the yeshiva for the sweeter teachings of the classic texts of Hasidism. In contrast, Chabad and Breslov, in their different ways, place daily study of their dynasty's Hasidic texts in central focus. Illustrative of this is Sholem Dov Bashniason's wish in establishing the Chabad Yeshiva system, that the students should spend a part of the daily curriculum learning Chabad Hasidic texts, with pilpul. Pilpul is the in-depth analytical investigation of a topic, traditionally reserved for the profound nuances of Talmudist study. The idea to learn Hasidic mystical texts with similar logical profundity derives from the unique approach in the works of the Rebbe's Chabad. Further illustrative of this is the differentiation in Chabad thought between general Hasidism's emphasis on emotional enthusiasm and the Chabad ideal of intellectually reserved ecstasy. In the Breslov movement, in contrast, the daily study of works from the imaginative, creative radicalism of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov awakens the necessary soulfulness with which to approach other Jewish study and observance. Sephardi yeshivas. Although the yeshiva as an institution is in some ways a continuation of the Talmudist academies in Babylonia, large-scale educational institutions of this kind were not characteristic of the North African and Middle Eastern Sephardi Jewish world in pre-modern times. Education typically took place in a more informal setting in the synagogue or in the entourage of a famous rabbi. In medieval Spain and immediately following the expulsion in 1492, there were some schools which combined Jewish studies with sciences such as logic and astronomy, similar to the contemporary Islamic madrasas. In 19th century Jerusalem, a college was typically an endowment for supporting 10 adult scholars rather than an educational institution in the modern sense. Towards the end of the century, a school for orphans was founded, providing for some rabbinic studies. Early educational institutions on the European model were Beth Zilka, founded in 1870s, Iraq, and Porat Yosef Yeshiva, founded in Jerusalem in 1914. Also notable is the Bet El Yeshiva, founded in 1737 in Jerusalem for advanced Kabbalistic studies. Later Sephardic yeshivot are usually on the model either of Porat Yosef or of the Ashkenazi institutions. The Sephardic world has traditionally placed the study of esoteric Jewish mysticism in a more mainstream position than in the European Ashkenazi world. This difference of emphasis arose in reaction to the historical events of the Sabbatian heresy in the 17th century, that suppressed widespread study of Kabbalah in Europe in favor of the strength of rabbinic Talmudist study. In Eastern European Lithuanian life, Kabbalah was reserved for an intellectual elite, while the mystical revival of Hasidism articulated Kabbalistic theology through Hasidic thought. These factors did not affect the Sephardi Jewish world, which retained a wider connection to Kabbalah in its traditionally observant communities. With the establishment of Sephardi yeshivas in Israel, after the immigration of the Arabic Jewish communities there, some Sephardi yeshivas incorporated study of more accessible Kabbalistic texts into their curriculum. Nonetheless, the European prescriptions to reserve advanced Kabbalistic study to mature and elite students also influenced the choice of texts in such yeshivas. Conservative movement yeshivas. In 1854, the Jewish Theological Seminary of Breslau was founded. It was headed by Zecharias Frankel, and was eventually viewed as the first yeshiva associated with conservative Judaism. In subsequent years, conservative Judaism established a number of other institutions of higher learning that emulate the style of traditional yeshivas in significant ways. However, many do not officially refer to themselves as yeshivas, and all are open to both women and men, who study in the same classrooms and follow the same curriculum. Students may study part-time, as in a kollel, or full-time, and they may study lishma or towards earning rabbinic ordination. Non-denominational or mixed yeshivas. Non-denominational yeshivas and kollels with connections to conservative Judaism include Yeshivat Hadar in New York, the leaders of whom include Rabbinical Assembly members Eli Kaunfer and Shai Held. The Rabbinical School of the Academy for Jewish Religion in California is led by conservative Rabbi Mel Gottlieb. The faculty of the Academy for Jewish Religion in New York and of the Rabbinical School of Hebrew College in Newton Center, Massachusetts also includes a large number of conservative rabbis. Reform and Reconstructionist seminaries. Hebrew Union College, affiliated with Reform Judaism, was founded in 1875 under the leadership of Rabbi Isaac Mayer Wise in Cincinnati, Ohio. HUC later opened additional locations in New York, Los Angeles, and Jerusalem. It is a rabbinical seminary or college mostly geared for the training of rabbis and clergy specifically. Similarly, the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College of Reconstructionist Judaism, founded in Pennsylvania in 1968, functions to train its future clergy. Some Reform and Reconstructionist teachers also teach at non-denominational seminaries like the Academy for Jewish Religion in New York, the Academy for Jewish Religion in California, and the Rabbinical School of Hebrew College. None of these institutions describes itself as a yeshiva. Contemporary Orthodox yeshivas. Types of yeshivat. Yeshiva Ketana. Many yeshivat ketanot in Israel and some in the diaspora do not have a secular course of studies, and all students learn Judaic Torah studies full-time. Yeshiva High School, also called Mesivta or Mechane or Yeshiva Ketana, combines the intensive Jewish religious education with a secular high school education. The dual curriculum was pioneered by the Manhattan Talmudical Academy of Yeshiva University in 1916. Mechane, for Israeli high school graduates who wish to study for 1 year before entering the army. Yeshivat Hesder, yeshiva that has an arrangement with the Israel Defense Forces by which the students enlist together in the same unit and, as much as is possible, serve in the same unit in the army. Over a period of about 5 years there will be a period of service starting in the second year of about 16 months. There are different variations. The rest of the time will be spent in compulsory study in the yeshiva. Kollel, yeshiva for married men. The kollel idea, though having its intellectual roots traced to the Torah, is a relatively modern innovation of 19th-century Europe. Often, a kollel will be in the same location as the yeshiva. Baal Teshuvah yeshivat, catering to the needs of the newly Orthodox. Traditionally, religious girls' schools are not called yeshiva. The Beis Yaakov system was started in 1918 under the guidance of Sarah Sheng-Ira. This system provided girls with a Torah education, using a curriculum that skewed more toward practical halakha and the study of Tanakh, rather than Talmud. Beis Yaakov's are strictly Haredi schools. Non-Haredi girls' schools' curricula often includes the study of Mishnah and sometimes Talmud. They are also sometimes called Yeshiva. Post-high schools for women are generally called seminary or midrashah.